This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
Police in Las Vegas found themselves in the middle of a UFO mystery last month after
To us, big eyes. They have big eyes.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal?
One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
What? I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yeah, I'm looking right at him.
Okay, hang on.
He's right.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, good. He's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
Mythical Legends podcast with your host Daniel Barnett.
There we are. Welcome to another Mythical Legends podcast, and with our co-host Craig Barnett, also my dad. How are you?
What's up, mate? How you doing?
I'm very, very well. You?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the same questions every time I'm on this podcast. Daniel Barnett, have you tidied your room today?
No.
It's never going to work, is it?
It's never going to be a yes.
Oh.
You will do it for me. You will one day.
We've had an interesting week, mate. We've had an interesting weekend, haven't we?
We have had a very interesting weekend filming with M&M Productions. It's been
Amazing.
very entertaining, hasn't it?
Yeah, being on a film set, being part of a Christmas movie. Massive props go out to them. Hope we could do some work with them in the future. Fantastic experience for both of us. And now it's Sunday evening, and no better way to spend that with some of your friends.
Yeah, amazing. It's so I reckon let's get one on at a time. So to everyone, this guest has been on our podcast before. We are bringing him back live today to see what's gone on between now and back then. And then we have
Can I just say, Daniel, not only just someone coming back, but someone who has supported you absolutely from the start, has been had a massive impact on Mythical Legends, not just on the growth of this this podcast, but you as an individual. And we thank him so much because he did the forward for your book, and he's been a bit of a sounding board for us and given us all that amazing advice. So I'm so pleased to have him back today.
Yeah, so let's bring this guest on, and then we have a surprise guest for you guys later on in the podcast. Let's bring Mr. Mike on.
Good evening for you guys. Good afternoon on my side. What's up, gentlemen? How are we doing tonight?
We're doing all right.
Where we are in the world.
We're evening. But as you can tell from the beginning of us getting this set up, that Daniel is the professional one in the family. So, I he knows what's going on. I don't.
Let's see. We got to clean that room, though, but I hear that. Oh, I'm going to have to support Dad on that one. So, but then again, I usually have to clean my room, too. So.
So, Mike, how are you, bud?
I'm doing great. Busy. But
Good.
I'm happy to be back talking to you guys, on this
Amazing.
platform, and seeing that the show is going, and all the other cool stuff you got going on is just absolutely amazing. All these folks from around the world coming to visit. I mean, that's awesome.
I don't think there's a harder working 14-year-old in the world, is there? Really, someone who actually just puts it out there and does all this stuff is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, to see the amount of stuff that you're doing. I mean, 14 was riding my BMX bike. I was volunteering at the local zoo at 14, but not doing no stuff and traveling the world, and that's just crazy awesome.
So you've had someone else very, very special say to you, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mike, can you actually see that message at the bottom?
Yep, I can see it.
Oh, that's okay then.
Up on there.
Oh, that's good.
I'm signed in from my StreamYard too on our side, or
Oh,
Chris's
amazing.
StreamYard,
Yeah.
the one that we use
Yeah.
for our podcast.
So Mike, one question that I'll ask you, and I'll ask you again when we have our surprise guest come on. So could you tell us about a little bit about kind of the different things going on since last? I think it was either July or August. We had the podcast.
Yeah. Well, still been doing my podcast and my show, Where's My Sage, with my co-host Christy London, and we're still out doing paranormal investigations. In fact, we were out at one last night that was just featured on Expedition Unknown there, that's the Josh Gates show. So we were at that location last night. So they released that at the beginning of the week, and we didn't know. We just happened to end up at that location. Some friends were running some paranormal stuff there yesterday. Was in Florida 2 weeks ago, filming with Matt Larson from Central Florida Bigfoot, Alexander Petikoff from Small Town Monsters, Eric Swanson. Eric does his own setup. Brian and Chewy go hiking from New England. And I can't forget Max Powers too. So we had multiple different channels out there filming, and Matt put an amazing group of 25 people together into the corridor, or he calls it, in Florida, and brought everybody from the woo side of things and UFO folks to the flesh and blood Bigfoot folks to get out in the woods, and we got chewed up by lots of mosquitoes. And Alex and I did some other stuff for STM, and just a great time getting out there. So we've been working on that. So we put I did a little speech and kind of how to do some collection of evidence, and a couple of the guys filmed it, put it up on their channels. I never think about putting these things on my channel when I'm there, even though I brought cameras on top of cameras on top of cameras with me. But it was awesome. So. But great evening, and weekend. So we were out in the woods for 4 days.
Wow.
Immersed in the northern part of the Everglades, so I can't really go into the exact location, but Central Florida there, and that was a good time. So
amazing, brilliant.
Go ahead. Sorry. No. Go ahead, Daniel.
So Mike, it sounds like that you're up to some amazing stuff, and I know seeing kind of you posting on your pages, it's amazing. It's amazing what you're posting, and kind of some of the videos you're putting out there. Yeah, it's incredible.
I don't think we have that sort of community here, because we see your post, Mike, and you're sat around that campfire, you're telling those stories, and you're talking, and you're going out there and doing that, and we don't have that in this country, which is such a shame that we don't have that camaraderie. We don't have that, which is one of the things I'm really looking forward to taking Daniel over to the States to see you guys, because I feel that most of the community here in the UK is more online. We don't get a lot of time to get out in there in the forest, or we don't have the forests that would warrant that. But to see those pictures of you just all sat around telling these stories and kind of like, I don't know if you're throwing a few beers back or whatever, just telling those stories and getting out there, it's an incredible thing.
When I'm out in the woods, there are no beverages. If we're doing those kind of things, especially in a high snake area, whatever. And, there have been campouts that I've gone to, that may have had a few adult beverages along the road, but, it's a different kind of setup for those kind of things. That's not my style. If I'm going to be out in the woods, and dealing with wildlife and experiencing this, I want all my faculties ready to rock and roll. I mean, it is nice. I mean, years ago when I did a lot of the martial arts stuff, I mean, that's some of the best martial arts training I ever got was, over a good cheeseburger, an order of fries, and maybe a beverage, with folks, listening to masters from around the world talk about things. Or actually, I think the best one was over for us, the little donut holes, little Canada, they call them Timbits for the, Tim Hortons, Duncan's got their little munchkins, but those probably, great master that studied with Bruce Lee, as one of his senior Kung Fu brothers, and watching that guy pound back those coffee and those munchkins. You know, there's Brian and Chewy there. Those guys are awesome. So they came down. So we had a bunch of folks from the Northeast. So we had people drive, you know, almost 24 hours down. You know, I flew down. So, you know, had that conversation last week about how far it is for you guys. Everybody gets worried about driving an hour.
If you drive 24 hours in our country, you fall off the end.
Yeah.
So it's like
flat Earth, right?
I know. Yeah, let's not go there. That's not today's podcast. But that really is bizarre to us. I mean, you know, you talk to someone in the UK talking about, oh, I'm going to drive 3 to 4 hours. They kind of go, yeah, I won't bother. You know, it's, and I know when I took Daniel to Scotland. And we drove, and it took 7 hours. People thought we were absolutely mad.
Yep.
They said, "Why don't you fly?" I was like, "Because it's a road trip. You know, it's not something that we do every day." But people did not understand that we were going to drive just for 7 hours. Then we hear someone like yourself who's going to drive, or some people are going to drive for 24 hours to get to do something they love. That's amazing. That's incredible.
That's and incredible. Then car camp on top of it, you know. I mean, yesterday, just to go to the investigation we were on last night, it was an hour and a half. You know, so for us, we just don't think about it. You know, it's, and you know, I possibly might be back down there in June when you guys come down, and that was another thing. You know, I had a copy of the book, Daniel's book, and, you know, said, "Hey guys, this is out there." But a lot of those groups I've never interacted with before, and they were like, "Hey, yeah, we're going. They're ready to come down and see you talk." And so no pressure, bud. But
yeah, right.
A lot of adults were like, "Yeah, we want to go hear this kid speak." So you know, we're ready to rock that.
And I think that's the thing though when we're talking to people about the book, it's the stories, Daniel. You know, the story is he's an incredible kid, and you know he's going to make his head even bigger now. But he won't tidy his room yet, alone he can do all this sort of stuff. But it really is, you know, what he's done and how he's persistent and searching for answers in a world that hasn't got answers. And you know, so the book is more of a little bit of an experience of his. It's not about the research and stuff. It is, you know, it is to a point, but it's more about him and his journey, I think.
Ray, is that you? I can't see who the Facebook user is, but I'm seeing Mapinguari, and I know a gentleman that has been around and seen the old
RPG
in the house.
RPG. So
yeah, and I see, mate. I see. So, Mike, I think to continue this podcast, I think we have to get our special guest on.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. If not, you know.
I've been sat here, and I can see her below, and she's laughing, in everything that we're saying. So let's bring her on, and let's have a good rest of the podcast. So please welcome to the stage, Christy London.
Hello.
Hello, Christy.
How are you?
Very, very well. You?
I'm very good. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. But I have to go mom on you, Daniel. You got to clean your room. And if any of my kids are watching, they're probably like, "No, Daniel, hold out. We always got our dad to do it for us, and we can do it." He's always like, "Clean your room."
There's always something else to do. It's Daniel, have you cleaned your room? Yeah, but I've got a podcast with such and such. I've got to speak to Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum in a minute. I don't care. You have to clean your room.
Well, you just upped the ante, Daniel, because the only excuses I got from my kids were when I was on the phone, or I was outside, or I just didn't feel like it. I mean, you actually have big, important stuff you're doing.
Yeah,
so I gotta back you up.
See that?
But it's about learning priorities.
Yeah, but I'm going to be on his dad's side, because we had this talk the other day, and I think, you know, you can take these little conversations and put them into your notebook.
Yes.
That's your schoolwork.
I agree.
Yep.
You can.
Right.
It's a giant book report.
I'd like to introduce you all to my little Mike Myers, just here. We made a bit of a cameo earlier. Just for those people watching, this was up here, about here. and it took me a few moments to realize why there was a pair of legs dangling in front of me. And I was looking around trying to work out how does that work out, and then we found out it was my Michael Myers from Halloween Horror Nights Universal Studios last year. I get that out of the way. But Christy, it's lovely to meet you. I've never met you before.
To be completely honest, Dad, it's the first time I've met Christy on kind of a video chat, and the fact that she's come on and talking about my room means that you've already turned her to you. That is not good.
The way we roll, my friend. So, Christy and Mike, so you do a podcast together?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that and how long it's been going and things like that?
Take it away, Mike.
So we're almost on 4 years now. We do Where's My Sage, Taste of the Universe. And we cover everything from the paranormal to Bigfoot. We've had Jet Teeler from the Food Network on talking about feng shui and his story. Our friends from Naked and Afraid talking about their journeys through the woods. And Christy is a psychic medium, and occasionally we'll do a reading show where we'll do live readings, have guests call in or come out live like we're doing now. We'll just send them out invites and talk. But we've had Doug on talking about his whole thing with Monster Quest. You've had Steve Coles and Alexander. We'll go live. We'll do live investigations on our show. So we've been to a couple of. Try to get a lot of historical landmarks. So we're telling the history and giving some background on things. And, like I said, we'll be out in the field. Occasionally I'll take Christy and use her as bait in the woods. So
I do the same with Daniel. It's fun.
Okay, but that's your kid. You're allowed to do that.
Sorry, None. Let's do it. None.
I've got a spare one, Christy. I've got another kid. It's fine.
Hey, listen, I had 3. Listen, I planned ahead for this stuff. Sorry, Daniel. I still love you, though.
So that's what we do. And occasionally, if we're out and around and we happen to know that some of our listeners and our viewers are there, we may grab them for an investigation. We just did the Star Clark Tin Shop, which is part of the Underground Railroad Museum in New York. And again, that for us, it's a couple hours away, but we had a viewer and become a really good friend of ours. We picked up Connie, we grabbed her, and we took her on the live investigation. We were up in that same area a couple years before, and had another viewer who was big into Bigfoot. Grabbed her, threw in the back of the Jeep, and away we went, and all good to go. And that's we try to get out with our folks, and spread the knowledge where we can. I mean, that's what we do. We love our fans, just like your viewers here that follow all of us and stuff like that, and the friends we make along the way. Like I said, Brian and Chewy are in there, and there's a lot of cool people. We've met you guys.
Yeah.
I said, hopefully the plan is to get down south. So that's what Where's My Sage is. I talk too much, so I'll kind of turn things over to Christy there a little bit. But yeah, she's our in-house medium, and she's been featured on Destination Fear, and I'm talking too much. So.
Oh no, by all means, keep going.
Before you jump in, Christy, and Mike, when you say met me and Dad, yeah, I'm the best one and Dad's not. Right, so
and I know, Daniel, you've usually got a bit of a kind of question thing, but as you know, I tend to go off on just what I want to know. So, Christy, you being a medium and stuff, when did that start? How did you kind of find out you had this gift, and how did it kind of develop from that?
My whole life, this is all I've known. But, I was a child of the 80s, teenager of the 90s. Back then, it was not really known. You didn't see this stuff on TV. Mediums were not a thing, So I really just learned to adapt and adjust my whole life. I do come from a family that has a lot of gifted people. Unfortunately, none of them made that known until I came out publicly. So I really didn't know. So I really was kind of on my own with that. But little by little, I I had to learn to go with the flow really early on, because I didn't really have a choice. So that's just who I was, how I was. And I didn't even think about it really until I was practicing to really be able to do what I do. And I was with a friend of mine that we've been friends since we were 5. And I said to her the one time, I just can't believe like this is happening. Like all this stuff is just coming together finally. And who knew, like me of all people? And she was just like, you've been reading me our whole lives, and back then we were in our 30s, and she was like, seriously, you've been reading me our whole lives. And it really made me stop and think that I never truly understood how other people saw me, because I only knew how I saw myself or how I was treated outwardly, but not, until you hear somebody say something like that, you can't really grasp what you're actually capable of or what you've even been doing without even knowing you were doing it. So I can remember as early as 3 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. But all the way along, it's been very interesting, and finally the door swung open about 10 years ago, where I finally had to do something with it. It was like, okay, this final piece to the puzzle, was put in place, and they were like, okay, you have things to do now, so let's get going. And that's exactly what happened.
Was that a scary experience when it started to kind of really kind of become, out there a little bit? Because obviously it must have been quite from 3 years old, it must have been quite a personal kind of thing, wasn't it? But did it become quite scary when you came out and it kind of was out there that this is who you are?
Actually, it was more scary growing up because I didn't have an understanding. I would have these things happen outside or around me. I'd have certain things happening within me, but nothing to ever connect the dots and really help me rationalize or make sense of any of it. So as far as coming out publicly, my biggest fear about that, my two biggest fears were bringing something home that would potentially hurt my family. But the other big thing was being wrong. Like I didn't want to do this and then hurt somebody by doing it, because that's not the intention. That's not the idea. So, but you get over that, you learn self-acceptance and self-awareness, and you grow confident and competent in what you can do. And if you're humble enough, you learn your boundaries and you know what you're capable of and when you have to stop and when you have to ask for help, and knowing that this never stops. You're always needing to grow and learn. And, there's never something you can't learn from somebody else, even if it just shows you what you don't want to do or who you are not. Now you have more knowledge. Right. So, that was my biggest fear really coming out publicly, was just being afraid that I would do something wrong unintentionally, of course, but like to hurt someone or scare them or, not be able to help them. To be honest with you, that's my biggest thing.
Because I suppose people are kind of trusting you with their emotions, aren't they? And that's, yeah.
I go to the very most vulnerable place a human being can go, and that's a big deal. So I always tell my, my clients and all of our viewers, I can't do this. I couldn't do this without you. I wouldn't be doing this without you. Thank you for trusting me to handle yourself and your loved ones who have passed. So yeah, it's a big responsibility.
Wow. But that's really interesting. Mike, did you want to answer that?
Let's see. So it's Brian. I have a friend going through the same thing. Highly sensitive to see things that have not happened yet, and talking with the dead. It's fascinating what she's told me. Scary. Yeah, and it's the first time I met Christy, we were on a ghost hunt. We were down in Hinsdale, New York, at the Hinsdale House. Been featured on a whole bunch of stuff, but we both weren't supposed to be there that night, and we both ended up there. I got called by another person that was running the outing to come down to help out, and I'm sitting on the couch. I've got my thermal cams. I'm doing the whole debunk. I've got thermometers. Like, I'm feeling cold chill. Well, it's the drafty window that's here. And she starts to describe my grandfather to a T. And
whoa,
Steve called me and said because he was down there as well, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going outside." I'm like, "Yeah, so am I." And I think I left my boots, and
I've never seen anybody get off the couch so fast ever. He was boom. there, and he was all nice, and it was the older kind of couch too. So you sink when you sit in it. Oh no, he was out of that puppy and gone. I was like, was it something I said?
But, we've been out and
color drained from his face. It was great.
When I'm now, in the field of Christy, I have another partner that's out there that we're with, and he's a field biologist. I mean, he's world renowned for what he does, and Christy will be like, yeah, you're going to go down the road. Next road on your right is going to be a dirt road, and there's going to be a white farmhouse on the left-hand side with a large field to the right side.
Well, you should preface that. Yeah. I mean, I'll get a random text or a random phone call, and I'll be in the middle of grocery shopping or something. Tell me right now, like, what do you see? And I'm like, dude, I'm in Wegmans. I'm grabbing the milk carton out of the, off the shelf. What the hell are you talking about? Oh, sorry. So what are you talking about? And he's like, no, just whatever. And it'll just pop it. So I'm not with them, and I'm not near them. They're usually hours and hours away from me. And Mike and I already live an hour and a half away from each other anyway. So it's not like we're close. We are, but like, we're not, in the same neighborhood or anything. But yeah, I'm like, hello.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it's always. I mean, sorry, it's always one of those things that Daniel knows this. I'm a bit of a debunker, or I would never say I'm not a believer in anything. I'm fascinated by people, and I'm fascinated by people's journey. As long as someone isn't hurting themselves or each other, then I'm cool with it, and I love to hear about it. And it's one of the things with the medium side and this sort of side I would love to happen to me, so I could actually feel that myself, because I see the programs and stuff, and there's always that kind of thing going through your head of, oh, they're a plant, they already know this sort of stuff, and it's one of those things I'd love for that to happen to me, so I can literally go, wow, that's this is real, this is true. But did you have to go through a lot of people kind of like not believe it? I suppose it's the same with the Bigfoot side, isn't it? You tell someone you're a Bigfoot researcher, and there's this sort of stigma attached to it. Was it hard to get through that, or did you feel that most people were kind of accepting? Sorry, Daniel, I'm taking over your podcast. Sorry, mate.
I told you needed to do this, Daniel, right? I told you.
I'm just interested. I'm sorry. Last question from me. Sorry, Christy.
You got a full network. We can spin a whole nother show.
Oh.
Yeah. So did you find it was hard to kind of like, did people kind of have that stigma attached to it, or did you feel that people were so like accepting of it, Christy?
I've been very lucky. I when I came out publicly and told my family, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am, they weren't surprised. And it inspired certain family members to not necessarily come out publicly, but maybe finish chasing, their own gifts and figuring it out, or to at least, admit it to me and to let me in on the secret. I have, knock on wood, very, very rarely run into someone who has either given me a hard time or not believed. But at the end of the day, my goal is not to convince people.
No,
my job simply is to I am the messenger. That's what I say. I am but the messenger. I give you the information. That is my job. That's my responsibility. Mm-hmm. You take it and do whatever you need or want with it. And that's it, So at the end of the day, I don't really care if they believe or don't believe, because that's actually not what we need to focus on in the first place. Everyone is absolutely entitled to feel how they do, but I have been very, very lucky that people do not usually treat me in a certain way or give me a hard time, things like that. So it's been very, very good experience overall.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's amazing. Imagine if a lot of people had that about their opinions. This is what I do. This is me. Take it or leave it.
Right. And I have no problem if I have to, my kids call them my Long Island media moments. I don't know if you're familiar with Tracy Caputo over here in the States. She's actually from New York too. She has a show. She's a medium, and she'll go randomly. The show's about her going to people in public and things like that. That happens to me too. It happens to all of us. So, if somebody tells me, I will always approach them. I do believe it's all, in the approach and how you treat people from the get-go too. If they feel threatened or they're afraid, they're going to react, even if it wouldn't be how they would normally react, right? So you have to be careful, with how you treat people, and that can make a world of difference. But if somebody tells me they are not interested, I wish you the best. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I just go about my day, and I did what I was supposed to do. But that in and of itself is very difficult, and a lot of mediums do struggle with that, because it's not easy to go up to a stranger and out of nowhere and say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. How do you feel about that? Do you believe? I have a message for you, and look on their faces is usually like, huh? But some people get very excited too. So that's kind of cool when that happens.
That's amazing. I'm going to hand you back to the one and only host of the show, Daniel Bartlett.
Yeah, shush. Yeah, shush. You shush now, Dad. And I'm gonna be completely honest here, Christy, and say I'm not the biggest kind of let's say I'm not, let's say, interested or in the paranormal, because it's so big. It's so and which is why I've focused more on Bigfoot, but I've got more of a open mind about it, of course, and say if it's like if something happened to me, I would believe it instantly.
I think you get drawn to it, Daniel, don't you? I think with you, you're kind of so focused on the Bigfoot and the mythical creatures. Whenever it comes up with paranormal, you find the universe so big that it's a whole nother level to start looking at. And I think and I think you will get there, mate. I think that because the same thing with me with the Bigfoot, with the first kind of interviews that we started doing, I'm just here for a safeguarding for my son. And then I'm suddenly like, well, these world-renowned scientists and researchers we're talking to, and then things were linking together, and you suddenly go, hang on a minute, this is starting to make a little bit of sense. And I think when we start looking into the paranormal side, which is something that we as a family have never really looked into, Daniel, I think that will come, because when we start looking to that section, I'm sure Christy will be the person that you kind of contact continuously to ask questions as he does with everyone else. And then start looking into that. I think you'll find it fascinating, mate. I really do.
Can I just say, let me help you narrow it down so it doesn't feel so overwhelming. When you go to school, when you are in a situation, whether it's just in your social life or whether it's out, in the field, you already feel where you want to go, right? You already have an instinct for that, correct? Right? Yeah. You go where you're led. That's your psychic ability. That's your intuition.
Wow.
We're all capable of it as human beings. So you're already doing it. So being a psychic or an intuitive is different than being a medium. It's not that it's better or worse. It's just that mediums can connect with dead, people who've passed away. But when you're psychic or intuitive, which as human beings we all are, you're reading energy. Right. So everything is energy, and it's a constant exchange, even with something dormant like the chair I'm sitting in. It's literally an exchange of energy. So you're reading that. Have you ever been in a situation where, you walk into a place and you want to go right and you're like, nope, I'm going left instead? It's because your energy is already reading that situation before you even realize it, or your spirit guides are talking to you. And your gut, follow your gut. That's not just a saying, that's truth. Follow your gut. You already know what's going on, but so trying to pull it in for you a little bit so it doesn't feel so big. You already are a part of it. We all are. Yeah.
Wow.
That's fascinating. So an amazing way of putting it.
Yeah. Circle together, right? It doesn't matter if it's Bigfoot. It doesn't matter if it's school. It doesn't matter if it's our friends. It doesn't matter if it's getting a job. It's always happening. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. The thing that I'm saying to everyone watching and say, we are going to take a very, very short break, and I'm going to shove up an advert, and then we're going to come back with a different topic.
I'm going to shove up an advert. What kind of? What was that? Shove up an advert. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can now present an advert for one of our sponsors. Thank you very much.
for half an hour on Saturday afternoons and for quarter of an hour on Wednesday evenings. The world's only show about hard science, weird shit and surreality. And it's co-presented by an anthropomorphic chicken. Be there or be square.
If you could make any sense of that advert, I'm sorry. You know, do you know what? Jonathan Downs, I love him to bits. He is a legend in this thing. But wow, that advert is incredible.
I have no words.
No, I'm
just when you think you've seen it all.
Right.
Oh, gotta put
Mike, what did you think of that advert?
The other side of my brain is going through everything that's in the background in that picture. So, yeah.
Jonathan Downs, you are a legend among men. Well done for that one, and check out that podcast because in all seriousness, it's an amazing podcast, and he is actually a legend in this field. So.
Very cool.
It's just, yeah. Okay, that's right. Moving on then, if we can, if that picture's not burned in my brain. Moving on to kind of the Bigfoot side of the community, let's say. So let's go right to the beginning and go. So I'll go to both of you. So Mike, what is your overall opinion on Bigfoot? What do you think Bigfoot is?
I still don't know. You know, all the folks I've interviewed, everybody I talked to, even this last, couple of weeks there with the folks in Florida, I got to talk to a lot of witnesses again. I'm still, from talking to everybody, more of the flesh and blood kind of camp. That something's there. We're going to wait and see what Darby Orcott's got going with, the DNA study there from North Carolina State University. Which, again, I got to put the plug in there because everybody says, we don't have money for DNA samples, and yet they're going to do it free. So reach out to him. I mean, what you did with your eDNA study is absolutely awesome. So I'm still on that flesh and blood kind of thing, even talking about a witness, in the last 24 hours, it's local to me. What I got was more in the physical camp, so.
Okay. Brilliant. Kirsty, what do you think?
I try not to. I try to think as little as possible. Quite honestly, I feel if I had to actually say or pick or choose what I tend to lean toward the fact that it's flesh and blood. However, I, again, can bring it back to myself and my colleagues and, other people like me. The things we're capable of, any living, breathing thing can be capable of. And when I say that, I'm talking about, astral projection, whether it's in your sleep, whether it's conscious, being able to shake up your brain waves and kind of meditate or function in a way that can put you in a different plane or a different, dimension almost. There are those of us who are capable of those things. And if we can do it as human beings, if we have all this stuff to say that, Bigfoot can be flesh and blood, right? So why aren't they capable of it too? Because wouldn't that answer a lot of questions? How can they be seen and not seen? And how can they all of a sudden just be gone? 1 second somebody sees them, then they're gone. I always feel when I'm in the fields, on the few times I've been left on my own to kind of fend for myself. When Mike says, we'll be right back. And then I find they're live on YouTube 40 minutes later going, oh, hey, we left Christy back there about, a mile down the road. And I'm like, okay, yeah, hello. Thanks, guys.
Pork chop necklace.
Yeah, I do. But honestly, being out in the field myself, those are the feelings I get because, you know, I can pick up on the energy of the animals. I can pick up on the residual, just like in a room. I can pick up on the residual, you know, in the field out in nature too. So, you know, or a spirit that's out there, right? So to be able to put myself in that way where I can astral project somewhere, you know, why can't they do it too then? So that's pretty much how I feel about it at this point. Do we all know for sure? No, of course not. You know, but that's my gut feeling about it.
Okay. Yeah. And say they'll say with all the witnesses that say, oh, it came in front of me and then it's gone, or something was coming up behind me and I couldn't see it. It's like I was interviewing Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot, and he's saying that how I got into it was something was in the bush and following me, and he went, I thought it was a moose, but when it came out, it was nothing. And I think you can't explain some of those encounters that people have, and I think some people go, no, it's not real, but then I go, so you're talking that hundreds and hundreds of people are lying. It's that question that you have to answer and go.
And I think, Daniel, that's a good point, because not only are you putting it across that possibly lots of people have had encounters without actually knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a whole nother kind of thing, isn't it? So if you put down all the encounters that people have actually marked down, but all those little things of feeling something behind you or something like that, could be encounters that people haven't even marked down. But also that Mike's showing some sort of painting thing. I don't. Is that the color you're doing your room? Is it?
But yeah, but that's just it.
It's
I don't want to interrupt too much, but it's the stuff between the lines.
Right.
When you're talking to all these witnesses and you're talking to those folks, it's the little stuff between the lines. Everybody wants to focus on, you know, the easiest way would have been to do this, you know, do the big chart. You know, we've talked about the color charts before.
Yeah.
You know, in, you know, looking at those different colors and those different shades and everything like that. But we missed the little things. I thought I saw a moose. Well, why did you see a moose? Well, I saw this color, that. What was the time of the day? What were those things? Marking those little things down so you can put it in. When you say, oh, it disappeared. Now, how many martial arts we know, or, you know, that can walk very silently? The yogis that can drop their breathing down to absolutely nothing. The energy healers like Christy and I do the Reiki energy healing, and I almost said it right for once. As you guys know, I can never blah blah blah. You know, I can't get anything out right. But it's the little things, those little teeny tiny nooks and crannies that we're not putting the butter in when we're listening to the big story. Brian, I got to see my presentation I did down there about the distances from trees, cover and concealment kind of stuff. Everybody thinks that Bigfoot's right up on top of that tree. They're not going back to see where that spacing is. You know, find a pillar or something in town if you're not out in the woods, and see how far back you are before you disappear. And that's a lot of stuff that people don't look at for the big physical aspect of things. And it's just those little data points that Scott from Bigfoot Mapping Project is putting into his stuff. And, you know, I was listening to another podcast this morning when I was driving back from our investigation, and, you know, make sure you're respecting people's property too. You know, it's just something I need to get out there, remind people that don't cross onto people's property. There's a fence there. If it's one strand of barbed wire, don't cross. That's somebody's private property. You know, I don't care if it comes out, it comes out. So, but
and just going back to my second point there was, you know, of actually when Daniel started doing this podcast and the people he was meeting and interviewing. You know, it's brilliant. He's managed to, you know, connect with, you know, people like yourself, Mike and Christy and Jeffrey Meldrum and, you know, and you know, Ronnie LeBlanc and all these people. But when he started, we were talking to kind of people that from tribes and people that these citizen scientists, and we're listening to her. and I have no reason to doubt her at all. But then you go from her experience wasn't just her, but it was a whole tribe of people. How do you explain? How can you kind of go, well, yeah, well, load of rubbish. That doesn't make sense, because these are very, very credible people who are having these experiences and kind of relaying that story. So there's something has to link up, doesn't it? There has to be something there, because there's no smoke without fire as such. But yeah, it's a very interesting topic, I think.
And just to bring it back very briefly, Mike. I know we've mentioned this before, but for everyone else out there, who is colorblind, how do you work that color scheme?
The nice thing about the color scheme, so this is a Pantone chart. This is my cloth one I keep in the field, taking the field with me. But when somebody says what color it is, I can hand them this chart. They can point out what color they are seeing. So if you have somebody that is colorblind or has some kind of, visual issue, be it cataracts or something else, they may see something that we might not see. I know there's somebody in the audience right now that, we brought that up, and colors are a certain thing, and I'm not going to, point him out, but I know he's listening right now. But again, being able to hand a color chart to somebody, be it this, or just going to your local box store to pick up paint samples and say, this is the brown I'm seeing, this is the gray I'm seeing. Well, with that brown or that pink or that yellow might not be what somebody else might see. I mean, there's so many different, version of color blindness, and I'm not going to say that that's not a defect. That might be a defect for somebody that has a quote unquote normal vision that might not see that movement in the woods. They might not, be able to pick up on things, that movement, the color scheme. So that's actually a gift for some people. And that person that we were with, they had that gift of seeing other colors that the rest of us weren't picking the movement up on, which might save their life if it's, a snake or a venomous bug or something like that we might not see, or bear in the woods, because they can see shades of brown and green that we may not miss. We may not see that setup. I mean, you look at a tiger or something, it's orange and striped, zebras, they're black and white, but that was their version of camouflage. Or certain animals, that's certain things to go. I mean, go back to the UV light, taking a UV light and put it on, scorpions, find them in the woods, that whole UV thing. There's, I found some, Matt's got the video, and I think Brian's got it in his, Brian and Chewy there, where I took the UV light, we're walking down, that's what I was using at night instead of a white light or a red light. And I found some yellow bellflowers. I actually have to look them up because, I'm from New York, they're in Florida. I mean, I'm 24 hours car ride, distance, thousands of miles. But when I hit with UV light, they glowed green. They fluoresced green. And if you drop the light, it looked like eyes looking at us out because there are two flowers, but then when Matt turned his red light on, it had that red eye shine. I mean, it looked like eyes. But are certain animals seen in those color schemes? And again, that's the whole thing, is what are we documenting in the whole grand scheme of everything? If I got to the question and didn't totally sidetrack us down some crazy waterfall, which by now you guys should know that's what I'm good at.
It just reminds me of when we found out Daniel was colorblind, when he was talking to someone in school and saying that he has a dog and his dog is green. And it was kind of like, but that is how you see him. That's
Well, and I was talking to one investigator, and somebody brought him to me because we talked about the color thing, and he kept saying Bigfoot's blue, Bigfoot's blue, Bigfoot's blue. So I pulled out the chart and I'm like, okay, let's see what color he's seeing.
Yeah,
it wasn't he was seeing a blue Bigfoot. It was he was using a certain color palette on the thermal camera. And whatever they saw through the thermal camera was in that blue spectrum on the thermal camera.
Wow.
So we had to adjust his descriptions to everybody that it wasn't a big blue Bigfoot. It happened to be he was using a rainbow color filter instead of a black white, a black hot or a white hot. It was a colored, but it was actually that blue filter. That's what the color was coming up in. So when you do talk to your witnesses and they are using thermal cameras, find out what color phases they're using for their camera systems. I mean, even using different filters on your cameras, if you're using a more vivid on these DSLR cameras, they're going to change the color schemes that you have. So it's there. But so green for brown, huh?
Yeah. I just want to, can I just verify one thing?
See with that. Yep, go ahead.
I just want to, because I didn't want to keep jumping in, so I kind of tried to wait, but I wasn't until we get, no, that's not what I was going to say. But yes, I am writing. No, but I just want to clarify that I don't think every time Bigfoot disappears or if somebody thinks they see something that disappear, that it's always they're jumping dimensions. I absolutely agree that they can camouflage just like we could hide, just like any other living animal, whatever it is. I absolutely agree with that. I didn't want to make it sound like, I thought it was all just a paranormal kind of a thing or a spiritual kind of a thing. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that.
I think there was another question for you, Christy, actually. Wasn't there?
Yes. Hold on. Yeah, that one.
Oh. I see ghosts. No. As far as Bigfoot
you see
goes,
me?
I do. I do, and I see someone who's talking to me for you too.
You Michael Myers.
You think
saw Michael Myers? You saw Michael Myers? Sorry.
Yes, I see your Michael Myers. But as far as Bigfoot goes, I have not had an experience myself with that, seeing anything. Although I will say the first time that Mike brought me out, it was very late. It was towards the end of the evening. The night we were going to be calling it, and we were in one last location. And from behind us, there was a scream. Like at first, I would have said it was sounded like a woman in distress or in trouble. But then it kept going, like Barbara Streisand, for those of you who know who that is. You know how she would just go, and then all of a sudden she gets stronger, and it kept going, and it didn't stop, and then it got stronger, and then it finally faded away, and I was like,
I would be running.
Whoa. Well, and I sat there.
I won't sleep now. I won't sleep now, Christy. Thank you.
And I was like, what the heck was that? Oh my gosh. Because at first I think we all thought the same thing. Animal or a person way off in the woods behind us. That was very interesting.
It was
I had no explanation for that.
So now Daniel, when he's in the forest and he's researching and he hears a noise, and we're gonna say, what was that? And Daniel's going, that's Barbara Streisand. Because he does.
You don't send me flowers.
Hello, darling. Daniel, please tell me you know who Barbara Streisand is.
No.
He doesn't.
Oh my gosh,
I'm not. I haven't got to that level of the parenting yet. I haven't read that chapter of the parenting book yet. He knows who AC/DC is, and he knows who those sort of things. But we haven't got to Barbara Streisand. We're going to see Bruce Springsteen and things like that. But we have. Yeah.
Go with Hello Dolly. It's all good. It'll be fine.
He's a big country fan. He likes Darius Rucker and stuff like that. But we haven't got to Barbara Streisand chapter of our life yet. So.
All right.
Well, I will completely own up to saying that I did get scared in the forest when it was a very windy day and the trees were shaking. And I will completely say, because Dad was with me, and I went, do you know what? I'm scared now because the trees. I will.
The trees went like this.
Okay. I'm going to be.
And he got very scared.
I'm not afraid of the ghosts. I'm not afraid of the spiritual. Whatever's going to jump in front of me. I'm not even afraid to run into Bigfoot. I'm afraid of the bears and the wolves that are going to come out and eat me or hurt me. That's what I'm afraid of. I don't care about the rest of it. So whenever this one leaves me in the woods and he's got the gun and the bear spray and all the other stuff on him, and I'm sitting there in a folding chair with a blanket, that's not going to do me any good.
Good job, Mike. Good job.
I've got some great video of some pine cones falling. that we thought we had stuff getting thrown at us. But pine cones are up 60 foot, and they're a half-pound pine cone coming down out of the tree. And it sounds like tree knocks, and it sounds like rocks being thrown. And when they're hitting the ground on the substrate that we were at, it sounds like something walking in the woods. And there's two of us that experienced time in the woods, but this particular species of pine tree, we hadn't been around before. And yeah, I got some great video of that. It literally sounds like somebody's walking and stuff is getting thrown at us, but it's the pine cones. And, you know, even getting a hold of botanists and finding out that particular species of pine tree, they drop their pine cones. Doesn't matter what time of year it is, you know, and it's that kind of thing, you know, you're on that. And I happen to be bum rushed by something up in that. Could have been a buck, could have been a bear, could have been something else. But I didn't have my thermals. I was too busy on my phone. I had let somebody else use my thermal cameras that night because somebody, was doing the school paper on Bigfoot and wanted to go out. So it was like, here, mom and, his coworker and her daughter, here's the cameras. I'm going to hear nothing's going to happen up here. And I'm doing like I do when I'm fishing, get on my phone and not pay attention. And, that got bum rushed when I slipped and fell. And by the time I got back up, they're screaming, trying to find cameras, trying to get things and whatever it was out of there. So like I said, the next day we went back and then we got the pine cones coming down. And we're like, it just doesn't make, why is something getting thrown at us? Doesn't make any sense. And come to find out it was the pine cones. But again, those things hitting at a half a pound, the side of trees sounds like tree knocks. So get to know, that kind of stuff. And again, the stuff that you're going to find as you do this longer and longer, you're going to be like, yeah, that doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. I've had friends that were in tents going, hey, that's a nice candy wrapper, for those bear or those alligators in the swamp. So
we're in the UK. We don't have alligators and bears in there in the UK. We don't,
My God.
No. We don't have to worry about that, unfortunately. But so Mike and Chrissy, it's been amazing speaking to you. And obviously you've got your podcast. Where else can we kind of follow you and where our listeners can kind of, catch up with what you're doing?
Oh, hold on.
Oh.
Look who's just joined us.
Hey.
Hi, Amy. Yay.
If she wasn't 6 hours away, we would have been down in Ohio. But with the snowstorm this weekend,
I will be complete. I'm going to be completely honest. I invited Amy on, but she decided to dump us tonight. So yeah,
Amy.
So yeah, guys. Yeah. So where can everyone in the chat and kind of us find your podcast and any other work?
Go ahead, you got your list.
So as Where's My Sage, you can find us Where's My Sage. It's actually Where's My Sage, A Taste of the Universe. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us, where the heck else are we? We have it on Spotify.
All your favorite carriers, YouTube, Facebook. Yeah, we're everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, I mean, we're pretty.
Have you got any? I know, Mike, that we're hoping to see you at the Florida one. If fingers crossed, everything works. Have you got any other kind of convention lineups, any appearances, or anything like that you want to put across?
So I will be at Small Town Monsters Monster Fest in June. I will be we'll both be in Caledonia, New York in June for Rochester Parafest, and its memorial. It's for Veterans Outreach, Melanie Rocher Memorial that we're doing there. Mel was naked and afraid, but she had paranormal experiences. We had her on the show. She's a great friend. So that's also in June. In July, Culls and I will be back in the same location in Caledonia doing some stuff. I'll be in Whitehall, New York in September doing one, and I will be helping Eric Altman in September as well. In Pennsylvania for the Bigfoot Camping Adventure. It's a big family event down there. And I don't know, we got anything else super planned yet?
No, not yet. Calendar's kind of quiet right now.
Yeah, you just got back from a couple. We just got back.
I did. I was in Michigan, Ann Arbor, doing the Potographs for Pooches event, which if you could ever get there, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Tim Miley does a wonderful job, and his fiance Lauren, amazing. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing cause, and there are so many really wonderful people who get together to do this every year. And actually, he holds a few of them during the year in different states, and it's to raise money for whatever animal shelter is in that area or that city. But his story is one that everyone should hear because it's not just about the animals; it's about mental health as well. So it's pretty incredible. Mm-hmm. So I'm always feel blessed to be invited to be a part of that, and so
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, amazing. Now, I have really enjoyed the past hour. Now that hour's passed very, very fast. But
I would love to get you back on at some point because that seems like we haven't even scratched the surface, doesn't it?
I want to say.
Alone, so.
I want to say thank you so much to Christy and to you, Mike. Thank you so much for you coming back on. And I want to say thank you. Oh.
You guys could do a whole night on horror movies and
I
everything.
I have everything here. We're going for it here.
Oh, nice. Oh.
This room, honestly, if you actually saw this room is completely full of movie props and.
That's cool.
You wouldn't believe it, guys. You wouldn't believe it.
I have an actual piece of the boat from Jaws just up next to me, which is signed by Steven Spielberg, and we have lots going on here. I'm a big movie fan, so there'll be lots of cameos from different characters.
Okay.
Going on throughout the series. We're going for this. We're going to wave off with this one.
Oh. Love it.
Well, Dad, right away I can say that you will get along with Mike and Christy very, very well at some point. But yeah, I want to say thank you so much to you both. It's been an incredible hour with you, and I want to say thank you to our co-host, or I should call host of this podcast,
the juice is loose.
Don't say
so. Right, thank you so much, guys. Have an awesome evening. Have an awesome afternoon, and we shall see you soon. Thank you so much to both Christy and Mike, and Beetlejuice. Okay, guys. Keep searching and stay mythical. Thank you, guys. Night.
Thank you for listening to the Mythical Legends podcast. For more information, check out our Facebook group. The truth is out there.